It's night 8, and Tatakai returns from tribal council after voting out Robin unanimously. As the most upset member over the vote, Marvin talks to Caleb and tells him he feels awful for voting Robin. Caleb comforts him and lets him know it was truly the right thing for them to do because Robin didn't socialize with their alliance enough. Marvin tells him he doesn't trust Avery Lee still and would like to get her out as soon as possible. Caleb tells him not to think about that right now and to think about winning immunity to avoid tribal again. Later on, Caleb, Avery Lee, and Sierra chat. Avery Lee is very thankful that they kept her over Robin and is also surprised Sierra got a vote instead of herself. Sierra doesn't know why she got a vote from Robin and is now a bit suspicious of Marvin since he had more conversations with her. Caleb says he hopes the four of them can move forward as they need each other going into a swap and merge situation. At Tabaru, Daryl does more work on Annette as he lets her know that Clarence is still the target ever since Angel got out. Annette says she's glad it's not her and she's willing to vote Clarence to keep the tribe strong. Antonio joins them and Daryl catches him up on their conversation. Antonio is also fine with Clarence going. However, Antonio then meets up with Cindy and Clarence and fills them in that Daryl is now telling Annette the vote is Clarence. Clarence is pissed when he hears this and really hopes they can take Daryl out now. Cindy says they should take things one step at a time and have conversations with Daryl before they determine what they should do. Cindy is still really skeptical of Bane, so if she feels Daryl is more loyal to her, she will push for Bane to go. On Reibu, Rocky talks with Zonathan and Nicola and asks if they think Nylene is the easiest boot at the moment due to challenge performance. Zonathan is honest and says he would never vote her out because they are extremely close friends. Rocky tells Zonathan the game doesn't revolve around friendship and that he needs to play more strategically if he plans to make it far. Nicola suggests they have this conversation if they ever lose immunity because they have been on a streak so far. If they make it to swap, this conversation wouldn't even be necessary. Later in the night, Michaela talks with Nylene to bring her closer to her. They have a personal chat. Nylene tells her she wants to be the first winner to have been in the military, and Michaela tells her she's very inspiring right now to those who are in and retired from the military. Michaela then says she loves traveling and completing new goals in life, and Survivor is a goal she can now check off from her list of things to do. She wants to win the money to go on more trips with her husband because they rarely go out together. Nylene finds this very genuine from Michaela and even tells her she would love to go to Final 2 with her, even over Zonathan because she's all about working with the women. Day 9 arrives in the game, and the immunity challenge is ready to be played. Everyone from Reibu and Taber find out that Robin was last voted out. Justin asks Cindy from Tabaru if Robin's exit surprised her. Cindy responds that she's not surprised one bit because everyone knew she was the weakest link on Tatakai. Everyone knows Tatakai wants to win immunity to break their tribal streak. Justin asks Caleb if last night was easy for anyone, and he shakes his head and says definitely not. He found it hard to vote Robin because at the end of the day, you begin to care for more and more people as the days go on, and Robin was the youngest and brightest on the tribe. With that, Justin then explains the rules of this immunity challenge. This is the first trivia challenge of the season, where everyone competing will be asked a question about Japan's culture. Get a question right, and you stay in the game. Get the question wrong, and you are eliminated. The last tribe standing with at least one member still in will win immunity. There will not be a second-placing tribe this time around because the two losing tribes will go to separate tribal councils to each vote someone out of the game as the 5th and 6th players voted out of Survivor Japan. Justin then asks Reibu and Taber to sit people out respectively, and Taber sits out Cindy and Annette, while Reibu sits out Michaela, Nylene, and Rocky. The challenge begins with the first question asked. Everyone locks in their answer and it turns out that Daryl, Nicola, Sierra, and Marvin got the question wrong and are all eliminated from the challenge. In round 2, Clarence, Antonio, and Iran get the question incorrect and are also eliminated from the challenge. Round 3 occurs, and Bane is the final representative for Tabru. However, Bane and Caleb both get out from their tribes, meaning Tabru is the first losing tribe of this challenge. This just leaves Avery Lee all alone for Tatakai, and Orniel and Zonathan on Rebu. In round 4, Orniel gets the question wrong and gets himself eliminated, leaving it up to Zonathan and Avery Lee for their tribes. In the 5th round, Zonathan ends up messing up and getting the question wrong on accident while Avery Lee got it correct, meaning Tatakai wins sole immunity, safe from the vote. As a result, Tabru will head to Tribal Council first tonight, and Rebu will go to Tribal Council second, where the 5th and 6th players will be voted out of Survivor Japan. All 3 tribes then head back to camp. Tabru arrives to camp after their disastrous challenge loss. Bane, Antonio, Cindy, and Clarence all discuss how embarrassing that challenge went for them after fully getting eliminated after 3 rounds. Clarence then starts up the conversation of who they should vote out, and even hints towards voting out someone who is a clear social threat who many people on the tribe do not trust. Bane says he's fully down for anyone to go because he is chill with everyone here. Cindy says they'll have to see what's best for them, but Clarence then states they should do Daryl because he has seen him talking with Annette more often and telling her to vote him, as in Clarence. Cindy pretends to be surprised and says that perhaps it makes sense to vote Daryl then. Of course, in reality, Cindy is pissed that Clarence jumped the gun and suggested Daryl without letting his target naturally grow. Cindy and Antonio split from the group and discuss how risky it might be to follow through with the Daryl plan after Clarence suggested it instead of Bane. Cindy worries Daryl might find out and use an idol or get an idol played on him, leaving him with all the power. Antonio says it's possible. He also doesn't know how to feel about Clarence anymore since it's evident that his mouth can run wild sometimes. Daryl and Annette later chat about the vote, and Daryl says that Clarence is the obvious vote. He says not to worry too much tonight because he has heard this same thing from Cindy, Antonio, and Bane many times before. Annette is down and wonders if they should put a vote on Antonio in case of an idol play. Daryl says it's better not to because Clarence will likely vote Bane anyway. Antonio finds the 2 of them talking and joins in. Daryl lets him know the plan is still Clarence in a 5-1 vote. Antonio says he's down as always and will let the others know too just in case they missed it. Daryl leaves the 2 of them alone, and Annette then makes a wild suggestion and says she actually feels like they have ammo to get Daryl out. Antonio finds this strange as he assumed Annette and Daryl were close, but it turns out Annette has been plotting against him for a while now. She says they can get Clarence on board with the 2 of them, and she can easily get Bane and talk to Cindy to hopefully vote Daryl out 5-1. Antonio then pretends he never thought of this move and says it's genius. Now on Rebu, Michaela, Nicola, and Zonathan talk about how they aren't too concerned about tonight because Rocky seems to be the consensus decision. Zonathan heard from Rocky the vote is Nylene, and Nicola says that's true. Michaela says she would have never voted Nylene anyway. Not just that, but Michaela also says that Rocky hasn't spoken with her lately, which makes her think he's never going to fill her in any way. Michaela then finds Rocky and asks him what's up. He doesn't respond to her and she asks if he knows who the vote is tonight. Rocky then says he hasn't heard a single thing. Michaela brings up that he had a chat with some people recently that the vote would be Nylene tonight, but she was never filled in by him. Rocky shrugs and asks her why she's even approaching him about this, and Michaela lets him know she knows he's a snake player who takes things extremely personally. Rocky then gets aggressive and raises his voice at her, stating he's not the one who takes things personally and that it's actually her. He admits that he doesn't trust her anymore, which is why he left her out of any conversations he had regarding the vote. Iran finds the 2 of them after hearing them scream from the other end of camp, and Michaela then says the Power Structure Alliance is now dead because she's leaving it. Rocky says it's fine by him and he would prefer if she left it. Aaron tells the two of them to stop arguing because they will expose everything to everyone else. Michaela splits away from them and cries to herself. Rocky then looks at Aaron, apologizes if he seems super aggressive right now, and says he's instead voting Michaela out tonight. He says they should keep the Nylene plan on hold for now. Aaron doesn't know what to say and stays quiet. Soon after, Michaela finds Nicola and explains everything that just went down. Nicola hugs her and tries to calm her down. Nicola asks if anything is changing now, and Michaela says no. She's still voting Rocky out and they have at least 5 votes on him. Nicola continues to hug Michaela and lets her know she'll be okay. Rocky talks with Orniel about the vote tonight, saying it's going to be Michaela because she's an emotional mess for their tribe. Orniel says he's down for that because he is worried that Michaela is extremely close to Nylene and Aaron based on the interactions they've had lately. Rocky says Michaela is definitely working with Nylene, so they need to split them up. Before tribal council, Orniel finds Aaron and lets her know that Rocky plans to vote Michaela. Aaron says she's uncertain right now as to what she should do. Orniel tells her that people view her, Michaela, and Nylene as a trio, so if she took Michaela out, it would prove people they were wrong all along. Aaron squints and asks who specifically said they were a trio, and Orniel lies to her and says Nylene admitted this. Aaron finds this interesting and says she'll vote Michaela out tonight if it means it'll save her own game going forward. With that, night 9 approaches, and Tabru goes to tribal council first. They each have a seat and Justin starts off the discussion by asking Bane how the tribe felt after today's challenge. Bane of course says that he speaks for everyone when he says that their performance was embarrassing. Everyone nods, and Antonio adds that he studied for hours at times and got out super early. Justin then asks Daryl what everyone thought when Tatakai gave up their book's reward to them. Daryl says that everyone assumed it was Sierra's doing as she wanted to show she was loyal to Tabru and Tatakai and Tabru should team up in a swap. Justin asks if that's what everyone here plans to do eventually, and nobody denies. Justin then asks Clarence how people are voting tonight since someone has to go by the end of the night. Clarence says he feels like tonight won't be as simple since everyone has been playing the game fairly quietly. There hasn't been anything going on around camp lately. Daryl nods and says this tribe is showing positive signs of staying strong going forward, and unfortunately, someone will have to leave tonight to keep Tabru strong. With that, Justin begins the voting. Let's see how tribal turns out now.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Clarence. Daryl. 1 vote Clarence, 1 vote Daryl. Daryl. 2 votes Daryl, 1 vote Clarence. Daryl. That's 3 votes Daryl. 5th person voted out of Survivor Japan. Daryl.
Daryl frowns momentarily and then grins as he congratulates everyone for getting rid of the true threat in the game. He heads up for his torch and Annette looks at Clarence and grins. Daryl places his torch down and watches it get snuffed. He throws up some peace signs while keeping a straight face and says goodbye to everyone as he leaves. Justin then tells everyone to head back to camp so he can bring in Reibu for their tribal council. Now that Tabra's tribal council finished, Reibu enters, and Justin asks them to each dip their torch in the fire and place it behind their seats and take a seat. They all do so and sit down. Justin starts off by mentioning the fact that this is their first tribal council after 5 vote-offs. He asks Nicola if this tribe is truly full of challenge beasts, and Nicola replies by saying they all have different skill sets. Zonathan and Rocky are the physical people on the tribe, Warniel and Iran know how to do puzzles, Nylene has military survival skills for camp life, and herself and Michaela have good agility. It allows them to win more challenges as there are a variety of skills required for each. Justin turns to Rocky as he's noticing he's very tense tonight. Rocky says there was an argument recently that he had with Michaela that's killing him inside because he just wants to get over with the vote as quickly as possible. Michaela looks at Iran and slowly shakes her head. Justin asks Michaela how she would like to respond to that comment, and Michaela says that everyone knows Rocky's true colors. If he doesn't go home tonight, people are more selfish than she thought. Warniel inserts himself into the chat and states he doesn't believe selfishness on Survivor is impossible. In fact, nobody is working with every single person on the tribe, so Michaela's comment is hypocritical. Michaela then corrects herself and says if the people she's aligned to flip on her to vote the opposite way, that's selfish gameplay. Justin then asks Nylene if she agrees with Michaela, and Nylene says she's not fully correct about the fact that people would be selfish if they flipped. However, she does agree that Rocky is not the friendliest person here, and if people plan to stick Reibu strong, it might be wiser to vote him out now. Justin asks if Rocky has anything to say to that, but Rocky simply says he'd like to start the vote. Justin says that's fine with him and starts up the vote. Let's see how tribal turns out now.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote, Rocky. Rocky. That's 2 votes Rocky. Michaela. 2 votes Rocky, 1 vote Michaela. Nylene. That's 2 votes Rocky, 1 vote Michaela, 1 vote Nylene. Michaela. 2 votes Rocky, 2 votes Michaela, 1 vote Nylene. Rocky. That's 3 votes Rocky, 2 votes Michaela, 1 vote Nylene, 1 vote left. 6th person voted out of Survivor Japan. Rocky.
Rocky gives a short nod in response to hearing his name and gets up. He pats Warniel's shoulder while Warniel looks up at Rocky in shock. Rocky puts his torch next to Justin and watches it get snuffed. He heads out while Michaela puts her hand on her chest and breathes out. Aaron and Nicola hold her as she smiles with them. Justin lets everyone know they can head back to camp now, so they do. Next time on Survivor Japan, with Tabru and Reibu both voting out their villains, they both feel stronger than before. With all three tribes feeling strong, the season sees its first tribe swap where everyone is mixed into 3 tribes of 5. Will the original Reibu members have a target on their backs after Tatakai gave up their reward to Tabru on day 5? Or, will Reibu be able to shake up the game? Find out on Sunday's episode. Daryl's final thoughts. Daryl didn't think his tribe was smart enough to boot him from the game. He admits he may have played harder than anyone else, which resulted in his vote off. He's mainly impressed that Annette and Bane voted him out despite him being convinced they were on his side. Anything can happen at this point, and Daryl is currently looking at Annette as a winner contender. Rocky's final thoughts. Rocky feels like this season wasn't for him. He was on a tribe that barely respected him. He appreciates Orneal for being the sole smart player tonight to vote with him. Rocky never planned to vote Michaela until today when they had their final argument. He doesn't have anything personal against Michaela, but he thinks she's playing too emotionally at the moment.